Hello! Okay, welcome everyone. I'm Adam. Hello. I'm going to be talking through some methods of tune writing in this workshop, and I'm going to be focusing on the area of music that's just called harmony and how to use harmony to get you going with a tune, and how to use harmony to take an original idea for a start of a tune, how to take that into a few different places, which results in something that hopefully you as the writer are happy with. And you as the writer are really the only person who has to be happy with this. Okay, so we're going to look at some harmony ideas and how to make that work for you in a tune writing environment. I'll just start off by saying that I've been trying to work out what music can be divided into in terms of like categories. I think there are three, maybe there's more and I haven't noticed them, but I've definitely found three categories. And one is, as I've just mentioned, harmony, the whole world. That's a sphere of knowledge. And then there's rhythm. That's another kind of independent sphere, which is a whole other area of knowledge. And then I've kind of been thinking that melody is its own sphere. And melody uses both harmony and rhythm. And so today, harmony. So before I look at actually writing a tune with harmony, I'm going to just talk through some basic harmonic kind of concepts, which some of you may be already really familiar with, some of you less so. Either way, I'm just going to walk us through some of the basics, and then I think once I've done that, I'm going to maybe just take it up a level in terms of complexity. So some of you might find some of this boring, some of you might find some of the later stuff a little bit head scratching, but I hope to understand. I just want to kind of do a carte blanche approach here. Alright, basics of harmony for writing a tune. What is harmony? And if this was a group class, I'd be asking you all to answer that, but I'll just ask you maybe to ask yourself that question in your head. What is harmony? I'll tell you my answer, or how I like to think of it anyway. I like to think of harmony as being vertical. So, in other words, low notes. I think of low notes literally as being down here in my consciousness, so to speak. And I quite like to sit and see if I can hear low notes actually down there. That's not too strange a thing. And then higher notes are literally getting higher and higher up in my being, so to speak, off up there, very high notes. And I remember being at university when I was 18, 19, and having a pint after class one day with the wonderful expert on pibroch and piping and tune writing as well, Alan MacDonald, and him singing to some much enthralled students in this pub in Glasgow, singing a pibroch to us, and he was using his hands to indicate differences in pitch. So it's a really helpful thing, I think, to think of harmony as being vertical. That's the first thing I'd like to say. Okay, so let's look at some basic things about harmony. My opinion is that the best way into harmony, if you're new to it and you're really just like, no idea what any of that is, then I would say, in a kind of scientific way, what's a scientific way? Keep one thing the same every time and change other things around it. Change the variables. Don't just go straight into 4-part harmony with moving chords, because that will, if you are just a starter out in this, that will leave you feeling lost, like you're in the swimming pool and you're a child and your armband is gone flat. Remember that? Anyway, so what one thing do I recommend keeping the same? I think we're going to go for like what the bagpipes do and what they have in Indian classical music. A solid drone. So that's one note that's just the same. It's also the lowest note. It's like the simplest bass line in the world. It's not moving, it's just doing something like this. So harmony vertically going up from there. That's the root note. You'll hear it described as if you're in a piece of music and you're in the key of G, for example, then someone will say, what's the root note? It's G. That's your foundation. I like the analogy of thinking of it as a building, a house. That's your foundations. Everything else sits on top of that. So, don't want to get too biblical, but was it Jesus said something about that, build your house on rock or something? I don't know. Anyway, so a solid foundation, okay? Let's think of harmony like that. So everything's going to come up vertically from this solid foundation. And I'm sure everyone here is familiar with scales, or he's heard of them, or maybe you do them all the time. What do scales do? They go from a low starting note, and they go up from there, and then back down again. So in the case of G major, scale of G major, it just goes up, and crucially it goes up one octave. That's G on the fiddle there. That note is also G. So a scale starts and goes all the way up. And this is one of the fascinating things about sound, is that when you start on a note, for example G, and you just go up, and I love this, you go up, you will eventually get to another note, which is also G. Or if you start on C and you go up, you will get to another C. And this is getting into kind of maths and physics, but essentially the reason that that G is G and also that is G, it's very hard to describe in terms of maths and physics, but it's basically, it sounds the same but higher. It's a simple way. Can you hear that? And that just goes off up beyond human hearing into dogland. Then off up. And also it goes below our range of hearing. Dum 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 dum. The same notes. So in between two G's or two C's or two F's, in between there, in between two notes, one octave apart, in that zone is the whole world of music. Everything is in there. And it's wonderful. So, your root note being G, I could literally just kind of slide my finger at the fiddle. Fiddles are quite good for this actually, because you can be, you're not restricted to notes or just simply tones. So, an octave, an interval between two notes of the same name. And everything in between those two notes is the world of music. And using the fiddle, you can just slide your finger up. You actually get an octave interval precisely halfway up the G string. It's also the same for the D, the A and the E. In fact, it's the same for all strings everywhere on Earth. And probably the whole universe, assuming the laws of physics are the same across the whole universe, which probably are, I don't know. But every tuned string, halfway up, that's that harmonic. It's wonderful. One of the nicest noises you can get in a fiddle actually. And there's another one up there. Same one down there. So the string is divided up. So in between two notes of an octave apart, in Western music we've divided that into 12 steps. Those are small steps, semitones. So like first thing. This is an octave, both divided into 12 semitones. And within the 12 semitones, we've given names to significant intervals. I used to be a choir boy in my teenage years, and we used to have to sing dressed in our red robes and cassocks and ruffs and different ribbons depending on how qualified you were. I used to have to sing this interval training exercise. I'm not sure if I'm going to embarrass myself by doing it now. I probably am. But we used to go... oh, I can't do it now. G is too low. I'll try here. Between C and C, we would sing the major second, which is 2 semitones or 1 whole tone away from your root note. Major second. And we used to have to go major second and kind of learn it like that. So a bit of advice I would give to you is to learn what these intervals sound like. Do, 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 do. Major second. If you can sing it, it's a lot easier to understand. Do, 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 do. Also look out for pieces of music which use that interval, both going up and going down. The next one up from that is the 2/3. In this case, I'm going to sing major third, major second, major third. That's the happy note of a chord if C is your root note. Up from there is the perfect fourth. Perfect fourth. And that's called the perfect fourth because it doesn't have a major or minor. It's just kind of perfect. So we've got major second, major third, perfect fourth. Next one's also perfect, but it's not a fourth, it's a fifth. Pardon my tuning. Perfect fifth. That's what your fiddle is tuned in, and that interval is one of the big ones to have to learn by ear. It's also one of the easiest ones to learn by ear if you're a fiddle player, which presumably most of you are. Boom, boom. Here's some more examples of perfect fifths on the fiddle. Perfect fifth. Interval between D and A. Perfect fifth. Perfect fifth. Perfect fifth. Going from A. Perfect fifth. Perfect fifth. Perfect fifth. Perfect fifth. And that interval is the interval. Stop singing for a second. That's the one which sets up your chords, your major or minor chords. Okay, so that's the one I think of as like between the interval of the fifth is like 2 bits of bread. You ever got the Subway? What kind of bread would you like? It's 2 bits of bread because what you put in the middle of that bread. What's your filling, sir? What if your filling is tells you if it's a major or minor chord. Okay, so the fifth. Easy in the fiddle. So here's a major chord, a G major chord. Do you know what's fifth apart? The major third I mentioned a minute ago. Okay. Briefly, let's look at the minor third. I think maybe some of you at this point might be going, what's a minor third? A minor third is 1 semitone lower than that major third. So G, major second, and previously we were going major third. What's down a semitone from there? So dramatic, isn't it? Minor third. Add the fifth. Fundamental, bottom bit of your sandwich, top bit of your sandwich, very sad filling. And let's go down an octave to this G. 1 octave lower, all notes, same thing, just lower. Okay? Dodgy tuning. Okay, so Let's do a wee recap here. One thing the same, we're keeping our bottom note the same. We're sticking with G. Went to C for a while there, my singing was struggling in G. Let's go back to G. G and up 12 semitones is another G, and in between is everything. So we're now looking at the significant stop-off points in between. We haven't looked at them all yet. We've looked at some. We've looked at the major second, which is up 2 semitones in your fundamental. So if you're in G, let's count it. Up 2 semitones. What's 1 semitone up from G? A flat. Up another semitone. A natural. That's the major second. Incidentally, there are famous pieces of music that you will all already have in your head with all of these intervals in them. So another top tip, you can write this down if you want, for learning what these intervals sound like in your head, learning how to sing them, ultimate, access memory files that you already have with these intervals in them. Because that information is already in your head. So I'm saying to you, work out pieces of music that have them. So let's think, what piece of music's got the major second? Happy Birthday. Pretty sure you all know that tune. Happy birthday. And that's a good one because it goes up from the note below and it goes back down again. So you get to learn doo-doo and doo-doo. That's the major second. So that information's already in your heads, and they're just asking you to tag it with a wee tag in your brain. This is the major second. Okay? A wee challenge would be to start looking for major seconds in other pieces of music that aren't maybe so well known. A tune that you're learning, a tune that you already know. Then we went to the major third, which is another 2 semitones up from where we've just been. Major second, up 2 more semitones. Major third. So what pieces of music have got that? Let's think. Does anyone know this tune? Okay. I forget what that's called. Very well known tune, but there's lots of pieces of music with that. The major third. Then we went to the minor third. So G up, whole tone to A, and then a wee semitone. So that's your unhappy chord. If we're in G, G to B flat is making it G minor. I just added D there to make it complete. That's the top bit of the bread sandwich. Okay, so we're working our way up from our fundamental G. We're working our way up towards the next G, and I'm bagging and tagging all the significant intervals, what they are called and what they sound like. And I'm asking you to pick pieces of music that have these in them, pieces of music that you know really well, ideally, and start to kind of get a deeper understanding of what these are. And just a reminder of why we're doing this, so that your tune writing can become freer, providing you with options. Okay, the perfect fourth I mentioned. That's 1 semitone above this major third. Famous piece of music with that. That's the one I used to have in my head when I was in the cathedral choir. It's good because it's easy to access. For me, anyway. You might have a different piece of music. Let's sing Auld Lang Syne. Okay, in fact, Auld Lang Syne's got the perfect fourth, then a major third. Okay, you can go through that whole tune to these intervals. That's the perfect fourth. Okay, then we're going to go up to the perfect fifth, and that is this fiddle interval does so well, and that is the kind of top bit of your sandwich. Fundamental fifth. Okay, and everything in between there, it makes it either major or minor, or neutral. If you have neither major nor minor, you have just a sandwich with no filling, yet to be given a flavour. Here's a flavour. Sad. Here's another flavour. Happy. First one I did there was the minor third, up 3 semitones from the root. Then I did the major third, up 4 semitones. Okay, we're getting towards G. Thank you for bearing with me. So, going from G up to the fifth. What's next? Then you have two intervals called the sixths, perhaps unsurprisingly. There is a major sixth and there's a minor sixth. The minor sixth is 1 semitone above the fifth. A personal favourite of mine. It's so emotional. And this one quite often comes down to the fifth. Okay. Then we're up 1 semitone from there is the major sixth, which sounds major. And this is one of the happier colours in your spectrum between G and G. Happy. And a sad one. Okay. So not only are we just having significant intervals tagged here, I'm also trying to get across that each one needs to have different feels, and it's fun to use them in your tune writing. And again, there's famous pieces of music with these. I can't think of one straight away. It's got a minor sixth. Major sixth. In Star Wars. Okay. Then we're going to have the minor seventh. This is getting very close to the octave. This is the one that the Great Highland Bagpipes has. G, fundamental. Okay, so that's just 2 semitones away from your next G. And that is very bagpipey. That's me having a bit of fun with the flat in the seventh, up to the octave, 8, and down to the fifth. Down to the fourth. Finishing on the major second. 4, 5, 7, 8, 7, 5, 4, major third. 4, 2. So I was just shouting numbers there, in case anyone was going, what does it mean shouting numbers? What does he do that for? That's a really lovely system where these significant intervals between 2 octaves are like, it's like a major second, minor third, or perfect fourth. We can call those just 2, 3, 4, 5 instead of all these syllables. So 7, 8, 5, 4, 5, 3, 2, 3, 5, 4, 5. minor 6, major 6, 7, 8. Okay, so all of these intervals are in tunes you already know. Finishing off, F sharp in this case. That's you almost back to G. It's the major 7th. Okay, and that one tends to want to go towards G. Okay, so apologies if that was some music theory that you all already know, or maybe something new to some folk, but I just wanted to go through the kind of mapping out of this vertical axis of harmony. How can this help you write a good tune? Good question. Well, how do you write a tune at all? Come to think of it, there's millions of different ways. One way with harmony is to simply wander about with your fiddle, educating yourself, or even if you already know it, just enjoying, loving all these intervals. So you could have a drone perhaps going. Just think, I'm going to do major second. I'm going to go for a G minor, so I'm going to make the minor 3rd the next thing. I'm going to try making out a phrase involving all of the major 2nd, minor 3rd, and the 4th. So I just set myself a wee challenge there. Make up a wee phrase which uses specific intervals. I made it the challenge to go root note, major 2nd, minor 3rd. And that's, you can have fun with that all day. In fact, I challenge you right now, maybe pause this video if you can, and make yourself try and make up something melodic with your root note, major 2nd, and minor 3rd. I cheated. I put a D in there as the 5th. Whoa! Broke the rules. It's okay to break your own rules, but it's fun to give yourself rules first. What if I make this major? What if I make this minor 3rd a major one, which means same again. Here's a wee challenge for you. I broke the rules again there. You too can break the rules. But as a starting point, you can just go, I must write something melodic with these 3 notes. Gordon Duncan wrote an amazing tune using just those 3 notes. The root note, major 2nd, and major 3rd. It was an A, so that's our new root notes. Intervals are the same though. Have a listen. Amazing. First of all, it's amazing because it's an addictive melody. Success. It's already a success because it's addictive. Secondly, it's amazing because he's only used 3 different notes. Thirdly, those notes are right next to each other. It would almost be like if someone said to you, do you think it's possible to write an amazing tune using just 3 notes that are right next to each other? Most rational-minded musicians would say, no, probably not. Gordon Duncan says, too late, done it already. Now let's just look at this. He's picked what he understands to be significant intervals. He's playing the bagpipes that are doing that drone, that fundamental thing. They are just going, boom, or if it's B flat, they're going, doesn't matter. And he's loving, I think, when he was writing this, he was having fun. First of all, enjoying playing, let's just say his pipes were an A, playing an A over the top of his A drone, he'd be loving that. And then adding this major second over the top of his drone, he'd be loving that. And then the major third, all over the top of a drone. He just would have been loving that. And I think, this is just a suspicion, but I think he thought to himself, I wonder if I can write an awesome tune using just these 3 notes. Oh look, I did it. Would have been what I think he would have been thinking. So why is that a fun thing to do for you? I think giving yourself restrictions is actually a really helpful way in to writing a tune. So what I would ask you guys to do in your own time is to give yourself a set of limits, harmonically in this case, just like Gordon's done. It could be those 3 notes that he used, or you could just pick any 3 notes in between an octave. Pick 3, and or even 2 or 4, I don't know, but pick a certain number of notes, and you're not allowed to use any more. Okay? And that very often, that limiting of options actually kickstarts your creative mind. It's a bit of a commonly held belief, I think, that limiting options reduces creativity. In my experience, the opposite is true. And I think Gordon Duncan's tune demonstrates this. When you actually limit the amount of options available to you, it forces creativity. Similarly, if you sit at a piano and look at all those millions of notes and say, write a tune, I don't think that's as easy as sitting with like a thumb piano or something that's just got 4 or 5 different notes and saying, make something up. So, using a very strict limit of notes based on an understanding of the vertical nature of harmony has worked for Gordon Duncan. It's worked for lots of musicians, lots of styles of music, and I think it can work for you. Let's look at some examples of other genres of music, perhaps, or pieces of music that use this limiting of options to create something beautiful. You've all heard of the pentatonic scale? Pretty sure it's a pentatonic scale. Anyway, what is it? It's major second, major third, and then no fourth. So it doesn't go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 1, 2, 3, 5. Then you get your major 6, 1, 2, 3, 5, 6. And then there's no 7th of any kind, it just goes straight to 8. So many pieces of music are written in the pentatonic scale. Why? Because it's wonderfully uplifting. 2, because it's removing options and thereby instigating creativity. It's almost like that would be the biggest lesson I could possibly put across today, beyond just reveling and loving the intervals against a drone, would be to just deliberately give yourself fewer options, like Gordon did, like the pentatonic scale does. And there's so many different options out there for you. So I'm just going to randomly pick some right now. How about this? Let's keep the major seconds. Let's have no thirds. Not fourth. Fourth. So 1, 4, 5. Let's have a minor 7th and an 8th. Already got a feel to it, isn't it? notes I went down to there, below G, that's allowed because that's the 7th, just in the lower octave. Why that top note? Because in this next octave from here, G, that's the major second in that octave. So you can have your options limited in one octave, but also be aware that that then can translate into the octave above and also the octave below. And there's a really lovely word which I think is important to learn here, is notes in a higher octave, we call them that they're in a higher register. So it's the same G to G, same rules, but all just one octave higher, get higher register. And then the same here, we've got our rules here in this octave, they also transfer below in a lower register. So when you're writing your tunes, you're not restricted to one octave. You can have 3 if you want, or 2. So what does it sound like in 2 octaves? The rules I've just forced upon this, whatever it's going to be. Major second. There was no third, it's right to 4th. And a 5th. And then a minor 7th. 8. So tempting to break the rules. Broke the rules at the end there because I can, but I shouldn't have. Maybe that makes me a hypocrite. I don't know. Anyway, so what have we got? Octave, significant intervals in between 2 notes. Learn those. Learn how to sing them. Look for pieces of music that already have them. Love them. I mean, it's just joyful. Look at instruments that already are using it. The bagpipes is one of the best examples of having octave divided up against a fundamental bass note. You'll also hear it loads in Indian classical music. I'd strongly recommend listening to Sharat Shrivastava from Delhi. He's a wonderful Indian violinist and plays in a band with Nigel Richards and Ross Ainsley, and another Indian fellow called Gyan Singh. They have a band called Indialpa, and they're great at this. They have the drone going, they call it tanpura, and all of it is different rules and regulations imposed upon a simple fundamental. And limiting your options gives you a flavour, a really distinctive flavour. It's I'm going to think of some examples of limited options being flavours that you probably don't recognise. I mean, the bagpipes are one. I mentioned they've got a flat and 7th. One of the things that you identify with Scottish traditional music is that, or Gaelic music, there's a wonderful mode. A mode, by the way, is what I've been talking about, where you've only got a certain number of notes you're allowed to use. It's a wonderful mode in Indian classical music that I learned from Sharat, which is hardly any notes in it. It's like almost not allowed to be any notes. What is it? There's no second. It's not there. It's just straight to the major 3rd. And the 4th. And 5th. No 6th. Straight to major 7th. So when you're writing your tunes, limit your options and force yourself to come up with something with your limited options. hope that sets you off potentially in some new direction. What kind of options could you be limiting yourself to? I'm trying to do a bit more on that. We've done major thirds, make very happy stuff so far. What if you did a minor third? And you could go a little bit Eastern sounding and have the flattened second, which we haven't spoken about yet. A flattened second is just above your root note. It's one semitone above. What's one semitone above G? You could make that one of your options. And then you could have a third. Let's say minor third. Starting to sound more Eastern, right? And that's for cultural reasons. Major third. I know a wee tune that I learned one time from Egypt, which uses this. So that's the flattened second. Also, really popular in like klezmer music, as well as all sorts of traditions in Hungary and Bulgaria. You'd love the flattened second. Now you might be thinking, it's not very Celtic-y or Scottish-y. So what? It's just sound, isn't it? I would say if you want to use that interval, go for it. If you don't want to use it, fine. It's worth exploring though. What is it? The theme tune to Pulp Fiction? It's actually a traditional melody from Greece. So that's a flattened second, major third, fourth, fifth, flattened sixth, and then interestingly, major seventh, eighth. So that's a Greek traditional melody. All of these things got something in common, from Scottish traditional music all the way to India, to Greece, everywhere, all over the world, have this similar dividing up in a vertical way of an octave. There are instruments with drones providing this solid foundation all over the world. Even in Australia, the oldest continuous culture in the history of Earth, I believe, didgeridoo, solid vibrational fundamental. And then you have the history of the bagpipes, which I think might have started in India, this drone with notes going on top of it at different intervals. It's ancient, and I believe a bone flute made by Neanderthals, I was reading, I think it was National Geographic magazine I was reading, was found fairly recently, and you can look this up actually. There's a gentleman playing it. It's got the same intervals as like a tin whistle. So wait a minute, Neanderthals are enjoying these intervals too. So it seems to me, maybe I'm wrong about this, but it seems like these a vertical nature harmony and pleasing intervals, significant intervals, is nothing new, and it's almost something which is not specific to one human culture. It's almost something kind of just naturally pleasing. And I think, I wish I was a mathematician. I think there's actually some maths to explain why these intervals are pleasing. So my advice to you when writing tunes is have a solid understanding and love of these intervals as you can, and then maybe be like Gordon Duncan and just celebrate them by writing a tune. that tune to me is celebratory. It's like, I love these intervals. I don't need to move into it anywhere else. What that tune does, by the way, writing it that way, means that when he does make a second part, he just goes into some whole different pile of notes he hasn't even used yet. I'll go back to A, the key it's in. Wonderful, isn't it? So he's created a bit of tension in the first part by using strict rules of which notes to use. And in the second half, he's gone, those rules out the window, I'm going to have a bit of fun. I'm going to use some notes I haven't used yet. And again, that's one of the nicest things about giving yourself rules, is breaking them. I think Hans Zimmer was saying that in one of his masterclass videos. If someone tells you someone tells you there are some rules, break them. But what I'm talking about here is falling in love, or re-falling in love. I'm always re-falling in love with these intervals every day, pretty much. Fall in love with them for the first time, second time, third time, 100th time. Give yourself some specific rules about what you're allowed to use in, say, the first part of a tune, and stick to them, or not. Try sticking to them. And in your second part of the tune, maybe use some different notes that you haven't used yet. Maybe a set of notes that are different from the ones in your first part. And what's that likely to do? I think it's likely having a first part with one set of notes and a second part with a different set of notes. It's likely to have a contrasting first and second part. I could talk about this for years, but I think I've run out of time. So, quick recap. Love the intervals, learn what they are, identify pieces of music that you already know with them, and see if you can just kind of go, oh, that's the perfect fourth, oh, that's the fifth. And for fiddle players, your fifth is the intervals between each string and its neighbouring string. Learn the intervals, get a drone going. You can get drone apps. Vacuum cleaners, not bad. And try playing up from the drone and finding each interval for yourself. Singing it is also good. Do lots of that. Give yourself some rules. And I think what you'll end up with, depending on which notes you've chosen for your tune, is a tune that's got a strong flavour musically. Like it could be bagpipey scale, or it could be more Eastern. It's up to you. And learn about all of that, really, and then just experiment. And as always, when it comes to writing tunes, I always advise people is please yourself and listen to what you like. And, by all means, listen to everyone else, study other people's music, but really enjoy your own journey with this and see what comes out. So, I will say cheerio for now and wish you all the very best of luck with that. The next workshop I'm going to be doing is looking at the world of rhythm and then combining rhythm and harmony together. Okay, bye for now.